Hello everyone, welcome to the lecture on interjection. What exactly are interjections? As you can see, there are certain words written here like oh, no, super thanks, happy birthday, oh my god, hello, bulk, crash, cool. All these kind of words that show a sudden expression of any kind of a feeling is termed as interjection. Let us see what exactly interjections are. As pointed out in the last slide, interjection is a word that expresses a sudden feeling or expression. An interjection at the beginning of the sentence is followed by an exclamation mark or comma at times. What does this mean? If you have a look at the sentences that are given, the words like wow, oh, and great, these are the interjection words because they are expressing sudden feeling. The first sentence reads, wow, that was the best goal of the entire tournament. Now, whenever we are putting any kind of interjection word at the initial part of the sentence, at the beginning of the sentence, it may either have an exclamation mark just after that, and then the next sentence would start with a capital letter and end with a full stop, or depending upon the kind of sentence. Or you may have the words like oh, just after that you may give a brief pause with a comma, and then finally to end the sentence you may have an exclamation mark. So you can have interjections put in two ways. One, at the start of the sentence followed by an exclamation mark. Two, at the start of the sentence followed by a comma, and the sentence then ends with an exclamation mark. These are the kind of interjection that we may have. Interjection of doubt. Er, Interjection of pity. Dare, alas. Realization. Aha, ah. Disapproval. Irritation. Ha, hey. Oh. Panic. Help. Ah. Dismay. Oh, oops. Disappointment. Oh, drat. Embarrassment. Uh, pain. Ow. Oh, ouch. Disgust. Oh, yuck. Surprise. Whoa. Eek. Well. Ooh. Wow. Really? Elation. Hurrah. Ah. Yippee. Whoopee. Pleasure. Yeah. Hooray. Relief. Phew. Whoa. Boredom. Blah. Oh. So these kind of expressions. Now, whenever you read these interjection words, because they express a sudden feeling, it is a sudden thing that came to your mind, and then you're expressing that sudden feeling through words. Therefore, it always, whenever you're pronouncing it, it should have and contain that element which the word is trying to project. For example, pity, dare. How? Suppose you're walking on the road and you saw a puppy dog uh, who's hurt. So, oh dear, how badly the dog is hurt. That's a pity. You're showing pity on that particular dog. So, whenever you're reading such words, the moment you read them out with that feeling for which it has occurred inside you, or if the moment you speak it, if that intonation is there, if that kind of meaning you're giving to that particular word that you're speaking, in that case that will be termed as interjection. Now, having talked off that, while pronouncing you need to change the intonation, or you need to bring that element of surprise, panic, pity, etc. This particular thing of how we are saying the things that you wish to say is termed as paralanguage, which is a very important aspect of non-verbal communication. Paralanguage, how you say what you say. I could always put it as dare how how badly the dog is hurt. It doesn't convey any sense of feeling. It does not convey any sense of pity. It is just a random sentence. The other person, whosoever is listening to you, would not be able to identify what exactly are you trying to say. So the moment you're putting that stress wherever required, you're changing the pitch and giving certain pauses here and there. This particular way of projecting things, speaking things, is known as paralanguage. And interjection is a very classy example of paralanguage. Some of the examples of interjection may be: bravo, John has taken a wicket. Brilliant, your article is very helpful. Well done, you have done a great job. Splendid, I like your work. Yummy, the cake is so delicious. The ice cream is good. Hey, what's that you're carrying? Alas, humanity has sunk to a new low. Hurrah, we have won the match. Or it could be any other examples that would express any expression with the usage of the words shh, ah, aha, oh, yuck, and what. Now, when you have the word what, that is trying to give you a sudden feeling, an expression of a sudden feeling, how would you use it? For example, somebody comes to you and says that you have been expelled from the university. The first reaction that you would give would be, what? And then probably you will say, how come I don't know about it? So this what in general, which is an interrogative word, it can be very conveniently used as an interjection. So that was all about interjection, which is an expression of sudden feeling. Now suppose you're sitting in the classroom, the door swings open and in enters Katrina Kaif. Now try to think about that situation and the word that you would use. So any word that you are using to express whatever came inside you, that feeling that came inside you after seeing Katrina Kaif entering the classroom, that word which is used to express that feeling is termed as interjection. Now, having done that, let us try to get a quick recap of few of the things that are important when you are studying parts of speech. Now, how do you convert abstract nouns from various parts of speech? Abstract nouns are those nouns that do not have any shape, size, physical dimensions. They are just abstract. You can't see them, you can't sense them using any of your sense organs. So how can you convert them from adjectives? For example, atrocious. Atrocious is wicked. So atrocious is adjective. Atrocity is the abstract noun. For example, he is atrocious and he is known for his atrocity. Degenerate and degeneration. So degenerate is adjective. Degeneration is an activity that is taking place, but exactly what that actual activity is, you can't see it, you can't feel it. So that's why it's an abstract noun. Fragrant. Fragrance is the abstract noun. The red flower that I'm seeing is very fragrant, has a good fragrance, is very fragrant. Now the red flower that I'm seeing has a good fragrance. So that's an abstract noun. Verb, imitate. You try to copy something or somebody. So imitate is a verb. How do you convert this verb into an abstract noun? You put it as imitation. Know, knowledge. Live, life. Please, pleasure. Now let us discuss as to how can we convert common nouns into abstract nouns. Common noun, queen. Abstract noun will be queenship. Scholar, scholarship. Woman, womanhood. So this way you can convert common nouns into abstract nouns. Now we've done a few ways using which we can convert a singular noun into plural noun. One of the other ways of making plural out of a singular word is adding plural or s to a certain word that is there in a compound noun. Compound noun is that you're joining two words together to make a noun. Like for instance, vice admiral. So vice admiral, first we'll have to identify that which word is acting as the principal noun. So vice admiral, whichever word is acting as the principal noun, that to that word will you be adding an s, es, ies, etc. depending upon the word to make it into a plural noun. Vice admiral. So vice, what is more important here, vice or admiral? Admiral is more important, so you will add s to admiral, so it becomes vice admirals. Brother-in-law. This happens to be one of the most common mistakes that we're doing while making plural nouns out of the compound nouns. Now, whenever I say brother-in-laws, if I have two brother-in-law, if I have two, I would usually put it as brother-in-laws. But law is only one. That makes that particular person my brother. Therefore, because owing to that particular thing, now again, if you think of it in the other way around, brother-in-law. So here we are making a compound noun using three different words, brother-in-law. I will have to identify what is the principal noun here, brother and in-law. So brother happens to be the most important word here as compared to in-law, of course. Therefore, you will be adding an s or es or whatever ways you can make a plural out of that word to that principal noun, which is brother. So it always has to be brothers-in-law and never brother-in-laws. So whenever you now listen to anybody's putting it as sisters-in-law, sister-in-laws, brother-in-laws, in-laws, you would be in a position to know that yes, the person was talking in an incorrect, grammatically wrong English. In general, we put it as that I'm going to my in-laws place. What is that? In-laws place. It has no meaning at all. This kind of usage of English words by Indians, this is known as Indianism. We have to avoid Indianism because nowhere else in the whole wide world will you be finding people using such things. So brother-in-laws in brother-in-law in India most of the times becomes brother-in-laws, wherein the law is only one. It has to be brothers-in-law. Likewise, court-martial. So court-martial, principal word is court, so it will be courts-martial. There will be two courts-martial happening today and not court-martials, unlike the way we are putting it. So this is how you can be making plural out of singular nouns. This technique will only be valid when you have compound nouns. That is, when you're making a noun using two or three words together, and you will have to identify which word is acting as the principal noun. To that word, you will be adding s, es, ies, etc. to make it plural. Now, there are certain nouns that are used only in the plural form. Nouns like name of these instruments that have two parts forming a kind of pair. For example, bellows. Now, what exactly is a bellow? Any kind of formation wherein you have ridges, ups, downs, and lows that has been put to increase the area it covers. For example, the image 1. So there are two kind of very hard boards of a certain shape, and then in between them they're being connected using a certain either a rubber or a plastic or any other fabric that has ridges. Now you can always put them flat and fold them, and you can open them. Like for instance, you have if you've ever seen a harmonium, so the one hand of the person who's playing a harmonium is on the keys and the other hand is on a flap. Now this flap comes towards the keys and then it withdraws itself. So the ridges that are formed in between, which allow it to go to and fro, those ridges are termed as bellows. So Bellows can be one of the example. You will never be using bellow. Pliers, you will never be using plier as a word. Plier is a hand tool that we use in the daily works that we may have. Scissors, again, even if you're putting it as one, it has to be scissors only because it has again two extremities to it. Spectacles, tongs. What are tongs? Tongs, if you remember, maybe in your 11th or 12th you would have done an experiment of resonance. So there we used to have a tong that used to be very forcefully hit on a pad, and then that pad was put near to the cylinder that used to carry some water, and the moment that the frequency that is generated out of that vibration matches with the frequency of that cylinder with water in it, there used to be a generation of sound. So that instrument, that tool that we used to use to hit the pad, the rubber pad that we used to have, that is tong. Or for instance, if you have seen at your homes or anywhere else, there is, or maybe okay, the most common of the examples of tongs would be the instrument that is used to make chapatis. When you were done rolling the chapati and you've heated it up, the moment you put it directly on the gas stove, then you're holding it with tongs. So that also is a tong that has two extremities, two parts. And then there may be certain articles of dress. Articles of dress means certain components that you wear as a dress. Could be complete, could be incomplete, that which may be worn with some other things, clubbed up with some other things, like breeches. What are breeches? If you can see the image 2, there's a tight clothing that you wear that is only generally till the knee or just below it, which is very tight, and it usually is worn for horse riding. Drawers are, if you can notice the image 3, these are again shorts or tights that are used as underpants. And then trousers, we all know what trousers are. So these words also will be only used in plural and never in singular. Then the names of certain diseases like measles, mumps. You will never put it as measle or mump. It has to be measles and mumps. And then names of certain games. Games like billiards, we know what billiards is. And games like draughts. Now these draughts, you may also pronounce them as drafts. These are strategic games. If you can see the image 4. So these are strategic games. We used to call it checker maybe. But the more formal and appropriate way and the name given to that particular game is draught or draft. So this draught, it used to have certain squares wherein you were putting the pawns or any kind of thing that you may, a component that you may use to move them from one place to another, and you need to make a strategy so that all your pawns are moving towards the other side. Right, so that is a strategic game. So whenever you're talking of billiards and draughts, again they'll be used only as plurals. And then we have certain collective nouns that are always and always used in plural. You will never be using them as a singular entity. What does this mean? Okay, that you can't use them as singular. It means that these are the words that even if you are putting it, for example, cattle. So cattle always has to be plural. You can't have one sheep called as cattle. It has to be multiple. So cattle have been grazing. It can never be cattle has been grazing. Just because of the fact that it doesn't end with an S would not mean that you will have a usage of a singular verb along with it. It has to be always the usage of plural. Like gentry. Gentry is socially very high class people. Multiple again. Poultry, of course we know what poultry is, and people. So these are the words that are in itself used as plural. You will never be adding an S to any of these. It has to be used like this, but in the plural sense. Now this slide is a very important slide. We've done pronouns, we've done personal pronouns, then we've done possessive pronouns. It is a summation of all the personal pronouns that we've done in different categories. Now see, the case would be nominative, accusative and possessive for each for singular and plural, and then person would be first person, second person and third person. Now when it comes to first person, second person, third person, first person nominative case, I am teaching you, I'm nominating myself. We are being taught, you're nominating yourself. Accusative, let me do it. So you're taking the charge, you let me do it. Let us go for a walk. Possessive, that is, this is my mug or this mug is mine. So the moment you're using my, it will be used as an adjective. The moment you're using, it'll be used not as an adjective, but yes, of course, as a word that is showing that possession of yours. And then mine will be the word that will be shown used as possessive pronouns. Similarly, our and ours. So our, plural, ours could also be used as possessive. Likewise, for second person, usually we have you for nominative and accusative, but for possessive, it might be used as your and yours. Third person, masculine he, feminine she, neuter it. For all these three, the plural nominative would be they. Accusative, masculine him, feminine her, neuter it. For all these three, again, plural accusative will be them. And possessive, masculine will be his, feminine will be her or hers, and neuter will be its, and their possessive will be their or theirs. So this table, if you remember, it will be easier for you to make the correct sentences using the correct words. We've been very frequently using the words each and every without actually knowing as to what exactly is the difference between the two. Let us go through this slide to identify that when exactly do we need to use each and when can we use every. Now the word each is used ordinarily when emphasis is not required. I just say each student. So I'm not trying to emphasize on anyone. The moment I say every student, it is a very strong word, stronger than each, and it means each without exception. Means if there are more than two people sitting, and if I'm saying every, would mean that I want each and every individual, I want all the people sitting to concentrate or to do whatever I wish them to do. Each is used in speaking of two or more things. Every will always be used to speak of more than two things. For two things, you can use each, but you cannot use every. For more than two things, you can use each, but for more than two things, every will be the word that will be used. Every cannot be used with two people or two things. It has to be more than two. Each directs attention to the individuals forming a group. If I say student, so that's a common category that I'm giving. If I say each student would mean it directs the attention to the individual student, right? Every brings to mind the total group. Every student means now I am talking about that bunch of people, that group of people as one. And then each is used only when the number in the group is limited and definite. Every will be used when the number is indefinite. Having said this, because we said that each can be used for two or more than two and every will be always used for more than two. So in case you have any indefinite number, a mass, a mob, so because counting of people there is not very feasible, therefore for such cases wherein we are talking of indefinite number, we'll be using the word every. Whenever we talk of each, it gives an impression that you know roughly, tentatively, that how many people are you referring to, because anyways it is limited, you can count them, they're countable entities. Therefore that is the difference between each and every. So every time now that you use the two words, you should be properly using them in the correct ways. Now, as we have done the formation of abstract nouns from different parts of speech, let us now try to do the formation of adjectives from other parts of speech. From noun could be, noun here would again be an abstract noun. So affection, affectionate, crystal, crystalline, law, legal, joy, joyous. Likewise, verbs can also be transformed into adjectives like answer, answerable, attract, attractive, benefit, beneficial, talk, talkative. So these are certain ways of forming adjectives, and adjectives can also be formed from adjectives also. Let us see in the next slide. Now this is a very interesting slide. It says that the formation of adjectives can happen using adjective only. So adjective is black. We discussed while we were discussing adjectives that adjective, the colors are called as adjectives because they are giving you a certain attribute of a certain thing. So black, this is black in color. So black. Adjective, the other way around, you can put the very word is blackish. So suppose if I have a mouse in my hand which is black in color, I will say the mouse is black in color, which is an adjective. It is trying to give you an attribute of the mobile, of the mouse. The moment I say the mouse is blackish, again that blackish word is trying to give you the color of that mouse that I'm talking about. So here the word blackish will be used as predicate, as it is used as in predicative sense, right? You can have the usage of adjective in two ways, attributively and predicatively. So when you are having the usage of noun or adjective before a noun, it would be termed as attributively, and then the moment you're using it after a verb, in that case it will be termed as predicative usage. So lone, adjective lone, adjective lonely. Tragic, tragical. For example, he died a tragic death. His death was tragical. So both way around you can have the usage of the words tragic, tragical, both as adjectives. Whole, wholesome. So these are the certain ways, and of course we have many more such examples using which we can have an adjective converted to another adjective. Okay, so let us take a very quick view at certain words that tend to confuse us in the usage. The words like later, latter, latest, last. So later and latest will refer to time, wherein latter and last will refer to position. Give me the book later, sometime ahead of the time that I'm talking about right now. Give me the latest news, again with respect to time. The latter portion of this video is boring. So latter, former. I'm talking about the place, position. The last slide was very appealing. Position again. Likewise, the words like elder, older, eldest, oldest. So whenever you talk of elder and eldest, whenever you're using these words, these will always be used for members of the same family. I have an elder brother. You will never put it as I have an older brother. Older and oldest are used in the general sense. General sense as in for anybody else but family. Then the words like father and further. Far. Farther has been made from the word far. So far is with the distance, away. So farther would mean is used for distance. And then further is to add on something more, something additional that you're trying to give, or extra, further, in addition to. Then the words like nearest and nest. So next. So nearest denotes distance, wherein next denotes position. The nearest bus station to my house is 1 kilometer afar. The next bus stop after this stop will be after 2 kilometers. So position and distance. And then the position of pronouns also plays a very vital role when we are framing sentences. Having said that, it means that whenever you are making use of two or more than two persons in a single sentence, you need to know as to where and how, in which place do you need to put these three persons that you're having. It could be two persons also, but then in general, if you have all the three persons that you're having in one sentence, in that case, you should be aware as to where do you have to keep first person, second person, and the third person. What should be the sequence of their occurrence? Like for instance, if I have a sentence like I'm talking of three people. One is myself, the other is suppose Ravi, and the third is you. So I have I, first person, you, second person, Hari or Ravi, third person. So I have used all three I have to use all three in one sentence. Where will I place the first, the second, and the third person in the sentence? The order of their occurrence, the position that you're giving to these three persons that are used in a single sentence should always be first the second person to whom you're talking to, then the third person about whom you're talking to the second person, and then yourself. So first person is always given the last position whenever you're putting all three things in a sentence, all three persons in one sentence. You, Ravi, and I will be going to get or buy a new car. So you, Ravi, and I will be going to buy a new car. So that is how we'll put it as 2-3-1 manners. 2-3-1. But when it comes to replacing the pronouns that are there in the sentence, suppose you have three pronouns, 1, 2, 3 persons in one sentence, and at the latter part of it you need to replace these three pronouns using a single word. Which word will you use? Will you be using the word that corresponds to the first or second or third? Now, depending upon the occurrence of persons, if there are all three persons, first, second, third person, then their placement will be 2-3-1, and when you replace these three, it will be the word that is used to replace these three as one single word will be the word that will be used for replacing the first person. That means if you have all three persons in a sentence and you wish to replace them, use a certain word which refers to these three, then the word that refers to the first person will be used. Second, if you have only first person and the second person, in that case, you will have second person in the sentence first, followed by the first person, and in the latter portion of the sentence, if you wish to replace these two by a certain other pronoun, then that particular pronoun has to be replacing the first person. 1-2-3 rule. It is in a way opposite of this 1-2-3-1 manners. Here we are talking of manners, there we talk of correct replacement. And then if you have second person and third person is in a sentence, for example, you and Hari will do dash duty. So you and Hari will do dash duty. What will come in this dash? You and Hari. We have you as second person, Hari as third person. As per the 1-2-3 rule, whenever you have all three, you will be replacing the first word, first person. If you have 1 and 2, then 1 ka pehla position. Therefore, these you and Hari, or maybe any other word that you may have, the person, in that case, you will be using the word to replace the first. If you have 2 and 3, like in this case, you and Ravi, and the sentence thereafter, so there we'll be using a word that replaces Hari, that replaces you. 1, 2, 3. That means first person, second person, and third person. If you have all three, then the word that is used to replace these three words, these three persons, will be corresponding to or referring to the first person. If you have only 1 and 2, in that case, the word that you use to replace them will be referring to the first person. If you have 2 and 3, so 2 occurs before 3 here in this 1-2-3 rule. Therefore, the word that you use to replace 2 and 3 as a single word, it will be replacing the second person. If you have 1 and 3, again, it will be the first person that you will be using. With this, we come to the end of parts of speech. I hope you've understood the minute concepts, the rules of each and every part of speech. And now I'm sure you'll be in a better position to identify the pronouns in any, identify the parts of speech in any of the sentences or text given to you. Wish you a very happy learning. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you again.